New York City. At the dawn of the 80s, it was exploding with opportunity.
Boom times. That's what the numbers signal today, an economy that's on a roll in this country.
A place to seek money, power, fame. Amid the glitz and greed, 5 titans seized their moment. But in 1987, the boom times came to a halt. And with the party over, the backlash began. A Wall Street cheat found his reputation in ruins.
Boesky admitted to profiting from insider trading
and decided he wouldn't go down alone.
Boesky ratted out everybody.
A hotel queen faced a city full of angry subjects.
And I hope she gets everything that comes to her.
And a future behind bars.
She had been indicted on a great many counts.
I'm innocent.
The gilded gangster continued to taunt the feds.
He was just out there, thumbing his nose at law enforcement.
Even as he handed them a smoking gun.
Tape-recorded conversations were a gold mine for the FBI. They were a jackpot.
And while a politically minded prosecutor pounced on them all,
Giuliani earned this reputation as this law and order person.
If you violate the law, you go to prison.
A developer from Queens kept pushing his luck.
Eventually, word started to get out.
It was time to take him down.
You tell this opponent, I meet John Gary to sever your mother head off.
It was a toxic wind that was ripe to blow up.
He said, I wish you could see her naked. Even today, it makes me uncomfortable.
These 5 titans would reshape the city and the world we live in today. But as the 90s neared, they'd finally face their day of reckoning.
Are you surprised? No.
And empires would fall.
We're very honorable people.
Black Monday, October 19th, 1987, when the stock market went into a free fall. Today's precipitous plunge struck fear in the hearts and pocketbooks of even Wall Street veterans.
The market is now down 221 points.
Does that make you nervous?
No, I died already.
Black Monday was the inflection point at which all of a sudden the party screeched to a halt.
In trading rooms on Wall Street, there was panic. Sell orders flooded in from big institutional investors, from private investors, from mutual funds.
A bull market that had gone on too far and too long without enough corrections suddenly just went down.
The largest drop in stock market history, falling 508 points on the Dow.
It was this absolutely terrifying event where the market was plummeting and it didn't feel like it would ever stop.
More than 604 million shares changed hands, with the decline of 22.6%, far greater than the single-day loss in 1929, which ignited the Great Depression.
Panic, complete panic. Everyone's going crazy. Rumors going around that they're going to close down the exchange, and everybody wanted to get out.
What happens if everybody tries to leave the room at the same time? Well, nobody can get out. And that's the 1987 crash in a nutshell.
There were moments where Washington bureaucrats believed that not only Wall Street, but the American economy could melt down. The chastening that everybody who went through Black Monday went through, there was a newfound caution that it instilled in everybody I knew on Wall Street. We'd now seen what was possible when the confetti years suddenly turned dark.
It was a devastating blow to public confidence in the markets. But it wasn't the first. For months, a drumbeat of revelations had cast a shadow on Wall Street, starting with the spectacular collapse of an arbitrageur.
Ivan Boesky came to the U.S. District Court today, squeezed into a Japanese compact car. He's already paid $100 million in penalties for insider trading violations, is barred from the securities industry for life, disbarred, and his lawyer says broke.
The Boesky story represented this rags to riches guy who came from nothing, who rode the Wall Street wave. He became emblematic of what Wall Street was in the 1980s. And the idea that he was rubbing his success in people's faces because he was so out there with his success, he was so public about his success. When he came undone, the lips curled, people smiled. The schadenfreude was thick.
Ivan Boesky, the central figure in Wall Street's insider trading scandal, has pleaded guilty to a charge of conspiring to violate securities laws.
When Boesky agreed to plead guilty, he knew he'd be sentenced to some kind of prison term, depending on the value of his cooperation.
Boesky decided to cooperate because he didn't think he had any way to fight it out. He was guilty, and he wanted to save his ass.
Boesky faces up to 5 years in prison and a fine of $250,000.
It had been a remarkable run for the kid from Detroit, but now he knew it had come to an end. And if he had to end other careers to minimize the fallout, well, so be it.
So Boesky ratted out everybody.
All over the United States, people have been shocked by scenes like this. Investment banker Martin Siegel ducking reporters after pleading guilty to insider trading.
Siegel said he always felt guilty for feeding information to Boesky. And now Martin Siegel was over. And Boesky was at the heart of the case of securities law violations against Michael Milken.
He was the center of this information hub. That's the most powerful position you can possibly be on in Wall Street.
He was worth more than $1 billion when he got caught cooking the books.
Michael Milken eventually pleaded guilty to 6 felonies and agreed to pay $600 million in fines.
Mr. Boesky has been extremely valuable. Without his cooperation, there would be people who would be involved in ongoing fraudulent transactions.
While the arbitrageur's downfall destroyed the careers of those around him, it bolstered the career of one cunning prosecutor who made the most of every white-collar crook he could cuff.
Since 1984, there have been more than 48 cases of insider trading, many involving the financial community, brought by New York's U.S. Attorney Rudolph Giuliani.
They're seen usually as very shrewd, very capable, very industrious, and yet there's this whole other side to their life in which they're cheating and lying and stealing, which they keep secret.
Rudy Giuliani wanted to be the center of attention, and he had enormous power to ruin people's lives. There was a famous case of Giuliani going after traders at Kidder Peabody and handcuffing them and marching them across the trading room floor.
How much did you make from your inside information?
A perp walk is the idea of arresting people in this very public and almost theatrical way, marching them out of offices so that the news cameras would capture these guys.
Do you think others are doing the same thing you are?
Publicly parading these Wall Street millionaires as if they were common criminals. It was intended to be a form of deterrence. Look what'll happen if you break the law. But you could just as easily argue that he was showboating. You know, everything was kind of a PR campaign for Giuliani.
He's busting these guys, he's locking them up, he's indicting them.
He did that on purpose and enhanced his reputation as the sheriff of New York.
Part of the criticism was, well, those are decent white-collar guys. And white guys to boot. They shouldn't be subjected to this kind of thing that actual criminals are subjected to. I thought, no, this is good.
To this day, there are people on Wall Street who criticize him, but the American people needed to see these people being held accountable, that these very wealthy, so-called masters of the universe were not above the law.
They committed crimes. Why not go after them? Why not go after the big fish?
All this profligate behavior started to begin to move very much out of vogue.
The so-called masters of the universe were trading their penthouses for prison cells. Once the heroes of the decade, they were now its villains.
Anyone who embodied these areas of New York City power, Giuliani took aim at.
If you violate the law, whether it's insider trading or tax evasion or fraud or bribery, a so-called white-collar crime, the overwhelming general rule is that you go to prison.
As the disgraced trader awaited his sentencing, the prosecutor savored his victory. But not for long, because he'd already set his sights on an even juicier target.
It is now alleged that they did not pay millions of dollars in taxes.
U.S. Attorney Rudolph Giuliani said if the Helmsleys are found guilty, they will serve some jail time.
It was the late 80s in New York, and the cultural tide was turning. For years, some of the city's elite had treated their wealth and fame as a license to act with impunity. But now the public was growing tired of their antics, and a hard-driving prosecutor was capitalizing on their outrage, going after the formerly untouchable with a vengeance.